You're watching India Today Global. The big story we are bringing is on the Nepal protests. It is now getting out of hand in many ways than one. It began as a protest against a very corrupt regime. What started as a response to the social media ban in Nepal really translated soon into not just a social media ban and protest against that, but the larger picture and the larger issue of corruption and the fact that there needed to be a regime change. But today what we're seeing is a little more than that. There are visuals of buildings being torn down, being torched, ministers being attacked. Prime Minister has stepped down. To discuss this and more, what does this mean for Nepal, the region, and what is the reason behind all of this? The one leader who during elections was arrested and put behind bars, Rabi Lamichhane, has now been released. Pranab Adhay joins me, so does Sandeep Unithan. We have them constantly discussing strategic issues, geopolitical issues on our network. Let's begin with you, Pranay. What's your reading on what's happening on the ground? Is this anarchy? Because we've seen these kind of protests, but this is beyond just the demands. The Prime Minister stepped down, and yet we're seeing the protests continue.
This is complete anarchy, and this is what happens when mob take over. So this is completely a mob takeover of Nepal, because every institution has failed. Leaders are being hounded. Their houses are being torched, and their families are being attacked. This is certainly not for raising certain kind of demand. Definitely the anger was there. There was sentiment. Look, Nepal is a relatively new democracy, 17-year-old democracy. And it takes a lot to change the governance system of any country for that matter. Nepal has been long a monarchy, and from the monarchy, after a long struggle, people brought democracy. So the institutions of democracy and the system which are required to keep a democracy in place, those checks and balances, those systems are still not in place. You know that you and I have covered, Geeta, the entire movement of Nepal's democracy, the way democracy came into power, and how the entire thing. I think Sandeep would add to this, that when the Maoist, when they were integrated into the Nepalese army, what kind of protest, what kind of resistance was there? So that is certainly there were a lot of problems. But having said that, the way it happened, it is something beyond. This is something beyond. This is not usual. This is not normal. If you see the telltale signs of it, what is being targeted here? The Nepalese parliament, the Nepalese president house, the Nepalese Supreme Court. So every institution, every icon of Nepalese establishments, symbols of states are being targeted. So this is certainly beyond this, and the kind of the fissures, the kind of divide within the society, within the establishment. I think that has led to this situation. The Nepalese polity is definitely to be blamed, but what people are doing on the streets of Kathmandu and other cities as well. Now this is not limited to Kathmandu. This is widespread.
Right. Also, the fact that you just mentioned Parliament, Supreme Court of Nepal, all of those structures that symbolize democracy being demolished, certainly does not bode well for a students' protests, Sandeep. If they're students, they want justice, they want accountability, all that, but within the realm of what they themselves, the students, must have studied. Respect for these structures and these institutions.
Absolutely, Geeta. And this boggles the mind, as Pranay said, that the way they've been targeting symbols of the state, the parliament, torching houses of the prime ministers and all that, it's really bizarre. This kind of protests haven't been seen in Nepal in 17 years. And I think the last time this happened was when the monarchy was ousted in 2008. But then, Geeta, there's another chronology of events if you look at it. Isn't it so strange that these protests break out just a few days after KP Sharma Oli comes back from Beijing attending the SCO summit? And there is, of course, a lot of Belt and Road Initiative projects which China plans to carry out in Nepal, and just then the protests break out. And this is
and if I may add just a small point, Sandeep, here, that KP Sharma Oli was scheduled to visit India on 17th of September.
That's right. The protests, break out, and I'm looking at a very similar pattern in the Indian subcontinent. Whether you look at Nepal, just about a year back, you saw a similar wave of protests engulfing Bangladesh, and Sheikh Hasina is ousted. Now she's a friend of India. KP Sharma Oli is of course pro-China. So there seems to be this familiar playbook at play here in the Indian subcontinent whenever it comes to a lot of regimes, and they're all being ousted in very similar fashion. Whether you look at what's happened in Pakistan, where an anti-American Prime Minister Imran Khan is suddenly ousted. You have a military that comes to power, and he's calling the shots now. And all of these, point to what I call action on China's southern frontiers. Are there bigger forces at play over here? Is it more than just Nepal and Pakistan and Afghanistan and Bangladesh?
That's right.
Or is it something, is this another great
We also
game
saw similar
that
things
we
in
see?
Sri Lanka as well.
Yes.
Even
Like
Bangladesh
Sri
for
Lanka.
that matter.
Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and if you see 2020
Myanmar.
onwards,
The South
Myanmar.
Asian region,
Yes.
it almost seems like, Sandeep, that China, America, these entire blocks,
Yeah.
so to say, look at the South Asian region as a place where they need to have a foothold,
Yes.
influence, and if there's a regime or a government
Yes.
that they don't like, they ensure toppling that government. They make sure they make it a point to make that effort.
Yes.
So we're looking at a pro-China government toppled. We're seeing a pro-India government, but some in Bangladesh that the West didn't like, toppled. I mean, for how long will South Asia have to? If anything, India is the only strong, stable democracy that has not been influenced by these.
Right.
The fight between China and America. Having said that, let's just go through the visuals once. It's not just the visuals of streets burning, buildings being burned down, Pranay. We're looking at ministers being attacked.
Their wives being
Their
targeted.
wives,
their
families being
I
targeted.
just spoke to a minister. I do not want to name him, Geeta, here, but I just spoke to. He's a worried man. He is traveling abroad. His family is in India. He has 3 children. All the children are there, and his wife was alone there. His both
Nepal.
house in Nepal, in Kathmandu, their official residence has been torched. Their private residence in one of the city of Nepal. That has also been touched, and that place is very close to Indian consulate in that town.
Oh.
And that place got down. The lady has been rescued by the army, and I'm being told that the families of these ministers have been taken to the army headquarters just to save their lives. So if this is a situation, if former Prime
And then
Minister's
former Prime
house,
Minister Khanal's
Jalanath Khanal's wife,
Yes.
she actually
his
died.
house was burned down.
Yes.
She was caught in that fire, pulled out, and succumbed to her injuries.
Yes.
You have seen the visuals of Sher Bahadur Devba and Arzu Devba.
That's.
The-
you can't beat.
Former Prime Minister, his wife. who
I'm saying there is outrage, but should they take law into their own hands?
Yeah, this is certainly not pro-democracy.
This
This
is
seems
not
to be pro-anarchy
This
protest.
is absolute anarchy. You cannot have. And then how will the students go
there
back?
cannot be any justification of this anger, because people have their anger. There are ways and means to express that anger, but ultimately if the people become people are so anti-system, then it is complete anarchy. In India has every reason, Geeta, to be concerned about anarchy in Nepal, because we share 1700 kilometer of border, and that too a border which is open, porous border.
Yes.
We have travel with Nepal, so many Indians are there and so many Nepalese are here.
Right.
No, but again, Sandeep, how do these students? They're young. They're really young, and we've seen student protests through years and years in various continents.
But is it only students?
various
Why are we
regions.
confining it to students?
No,
Like
the youth,
maybe they
even
are
if
just
they're
face.
older. I'm just saying the younger people, and we've seen that
Yeah.
these youth protests, not
Yeah.
just students. Okay,
Yeah.
you're right. Let's just not confine them to students. Youth protests, and youth can mean not so very young people as well. Youth, right? So we've seen youth protests through continents, decades, years, history, regions. How do they go back? It has become way worse off now in terms of how it's carried out. Anarchical. I mean, we've not seen these kind of visuals in Sri Lanka. They breached the presidential palace, but they did not kill.
They did, of course.
It was
These are
very
violent
different.
protests.
This is
Yeah, but
Bangladesh
they didn't kill,
was different.
But they didn't kill
Bangladesh,
because
there was
by
killing.
the time Mahendranath Rajapakse was
No,
already
did
out.
Not, they did not even target ministers.
So they didn't target
They're
the
very
minister.
civil people.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
actually did not
Absolutely.
do that.
Look, every
Bangladesh
country has
is a
different
template
dynamics.
that now Nepal is following. Now, I'm just asking, how do these kids, the youth, there are visuals. They know what they've done. They have to go back. They have to go back to a life where they will have to lead that life saying that, okay, I was responsible for the death of this minister and this minister's wife. I mean, that's a lot of baggage. This is absolute anarchy.
This is anarchy
What are they going to take from here? After the mayor has said, you have won, there is accountability. The Prime Minister has resigned, go back home, and yet we're seeing them
Nikita,
burning
the
the
question
streets.
comes here that how come a mayor becomes so important that mayor's
Because
statement
there's no one else.
is it? Or why he is being spared and not everyone? No, not others
Now
are being
we'll
listened.
come
So
to
like,
the geopolitical
yes.
question, but
Yeah.
just this: how do the students then go back?
How do they go back exactly?
Because in Bangladesh we've seen the same thing. I don't know how they're going back after all this that they do.
Right. How do the students in the Arab countries go back? I'm curious. The Arab Spring. I mean, this reminds me of what happened in the
Tahrir
Arab
Square.
Spring. Yes,
Yeah.
Tahrir Square in Egypt.
which spread through. It
Yeah.
started in Tunisia and just
Yes.
engulfed the whole of North Africa and went into the Arab world as well, right up to Syria. And I think Tunisia is the only country that has been left relatively untouched
Calm.
by the thing, and that's the country that actually
It
saw
began.
the beginning of the
Yes.
protests, and then you saw what happened in Egypt. There
Jasmine
was a regime
Revolution.
change.
Yeah.
There was a Jasmine Revolution. You had Hosni Mubarak topple.
Yes.
You saw
The regime,
Islamic
the pattern.
Brotherhood coming
Yes.
into power for the first time.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
When they
Egypt,
realized
in
it was
Cairo.
a bad idea, and
Yeah.
then they got another dictator back in power. So, I mean, I'm just wondering, is this a playbook that we saw with the Arab Spring now being replicated in South Asia, in the Indian subcontinent, where regimes that might not be favorable
Gita,
to
there is
the
a
United
latest
States.
information on this that after just a while after this, Nepalese army chief is likely to address to the nation. And recently we have seen a statement
Yes.
put out by the Nepalese army. Do you think, Sandeep, we have seen similar pattern in Dhaka
Yeah.
as well?
Yes.
The army chief came, he gave us a statement,
Yes.
and he asked everyone to calm down. This is in all likelihood, this is the thing which is expected from
Yes.
the armed forces as well. Do you think that now things will be contained since
Well, clearly, when
yeah.
the military steps in, that signals that things have gone out of hand, and it calls for the army intervention. And I would actually like to see whether the army has actually started moving out of the cantonments and into the cities, because the way the protests have spread across the country clearly indicates that there is anarchy and this is spreading. And of course, the military would be very worried because that could lead to anarchy, nationwide anarchy, and that would be disastrous. Now, I mean, Nepal has seen its share of political instability. You had 13 governments in the last
14 governments.
17
years. 14
years.
governments.
But that's no excuse for what's going on now. I mean, sure, democracy is never perfect, right? People have issues with it. It is a very imperfect system, especially when it's starting so late in Nepal, right? It's been a monarchy for more than half a century, even longer. And for people to come out and vent their frustrations this way and to kill heads of the elected representatives, kill their families in Nepal, it seems bizarre. I mean, now Nepal has been through a lot of violence. I mean, the Maoist
Yes.
the uprising that lasted for like 2 decades. That was a turning point in Nepal's history. But we've never seen, even with the Maoist movement, we've never seen this kind of
Yes.
violent, these kind of public
This
protests.
is just another level.
This is
I mean, it's
something
really
else.
shocking. I
Nikita,
keep
I want
saying that,
your
look
and
at
Sandeep's
the
view
visuals.
on this. When we are alluding, when we are seeing a pattern in it, but are we putting responsibility on something, some pattern? What are we like? What inference you are drawing from this pattern? If there is a template, then who's the engineer of this template?
Well, it's clearly someone who stands to benefit from countries around China's fringe being in a state of instability,
Flux,
whether
yes.
it is Myanmar or it's Afghanistan or Pakistan and now Nepal. And Nepal is a very, very sensitive flank on
Absolutely.
China's southern flanks. as you said, 1700 kilometers with India and an
Yes.
equal distance with Tibet. It's a very, very fragile frontier for the Chinese as well, which is why they wanted to stabilize it with a whole lot of BRI initiatives.
Which is why, Pranay, a lot of people will say, okay, who's to benefit? He was pro-China. Who's to benefit? Is India involved? Can India? But I really have a different theory this time, and I do say that a lot of times India does look at and has looked at Nepal in the past, saying, okay, what is Nepal doing? Who's in power? Will it help us, or will it destabilize India and Indian borders, so on and so forth? But this time around, I don't think it has to do with India. Prime Minister was to travel to India. There was a bit of a balance
having
there.
interest in your neighbor, and we all
Or interference, right? You
Interference
can
is
say
different,
that,
and
but we did at one point in time wanted a say and did have a say in drafting of their constitution. That's beyond just interest. You can keep saying, oh, we care for minorities, but then others who speak about our minorities would say the same thing, and we say sovereign country.
It's not
right?
about that, because
and when they did not listen to us, we did the entire blockade.
But Geeta, if you see the demography of that Madhya region, if
that's
you see the Terai region,
aside. It's a sovereign country.
It's a sovereign country. It's a sovereign
That
country.
aside.
Sovereign country. But this is how you persuade. Look, you
That's
sent
exactly my
Lakshmi
point. So then it is not.
Lakshmi Mal Singhvi, father of Abhishek Manu Singhvi, he went there. He drafted. He was part of the drafting committee.
That's what I'm
they
saying.
took help of India
No, that
to
is
draft their
long ago.
constitution.
I'm talking about here,
No.
2014, 2015.
So look, there is a history to it, no?
When the
It's a
redrafting
new
was
democracy.
happening,
They look up
Jay
to.
Shankar as foreign secretary went there and warned them that they have to be inclusive. But you cannot warn a country
So what
to be
did you do in
inclusive.
Sri Lanka? What did you do in Sri Lanka?
Exactly
What is 13th
the same.
Amendment?
But
this
we
is
have
how-
never, with
it's
Sri
not
Lanka,
about, it's not about
there has been
interference.
insistence.
No.
There
It's
has
like
been
persuading
insistence.
someone.
That
It's
is
like-
not persuasion. That was more than persuasion, because the blockade resulted in many people who actually loved India, including in the Madhya region, not liking India because there were deaths. Medicines did not go in, fuel did not go in, and that's when there were many who realized that, well, we need to open ourselves to
So
China as well.
Who did that blockade, and where did that blockade happen? That blockade was there in Janakpur and beyond. It's in the Nepalese territory.
Yeah.
What
Which
Nepalese territory?
Yeah.
So look, you can't
Who did it?
you can't play it both ways, na? If Nepalese people were protesting against their own government, they were resisting their own constitutional changes, which
what
deprived.
supplies are we talking
Geeta,
about?
So
Come
which
on.
supplies? No,
If
you
you're
have
not,
open border.
I am just saying
Look-
we can keep debating this. I am just saying that this time around I don't see that. Even that what you're calling pursuing or
No, this time-
asking the Nepal government, this time around I don't see that.
So definitely, we
I
do
see the social media apps
Our
as an
platter is
example.
already full, Geeta.
Yeah, we have a lot to do.
We have
We have
lot
lot
to
on our plate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lot on our plate. But just the apps, and that's a trigger point. The catalyst
Yes.
was always the fact that there's unemployment, angst, people wanted a change in government, so on and so forth, and they were planning this for weeks. But the trigger was these social media apps, where the Supreme Court, of course, the government insisted, because most of the open, free apps
Sandeep,
where
do
they
you
were
think it was
venting their
already
voice
making, because in
was,
February, we
were
had-
the American
yeah.
Act. Let me just complete.
please.
But these social media apps, where the Supreme Court came out and gave the directive, I'm sure at the behest of the government,
Yes.
they gave the directive that all these apps, all social media platforms have to register themselves on the Ministry of Communications website or wherever, the authority. The Chinese apps or social media platforms did it immediately.
complied.
Yes.
They complied. It was the American apps that did not comply. Now, why? They could have complied.
Yes.
They didn't. Were they used for as trigger by the
Clearly
people?
they were.
Yeah.
Clearly they were. Exactly what I'm saying. Over here, the pro-China Oli sitting at that military parade
Yes.
with Xi Jinping, I'm sure did not go down well with some quarters. May not have gone down well with India, but India now knows how to engage a country in the entire region, all the countries that have ties with China and are
Including the
willing to engage,
Maldives.
including
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Maldives, who
Yes.
actually seek a lot of help from us
Yes.
now. So now we know where our strengths lie. But there are countries, particularly the United States of America, I suppose, where for them, it is my way or highway right now. You see, So I do think there is something at play over here which is
Geeta,
more
here,
than
you know,
meets the eye.
we also
so the
have to,
containment
yeah.
of China is the
Yes.
primary strategic
But we have to
motive
give
of the
in,
United
Sandeep,
States.
that, like, you know, such kind of protest cannot be engineered, if at all these are engineered thing, if you
Yes.
take it that theory, that such protests cannot be engineered in a day or two. Like, you
No,
know,
no, no.
So
I'm not
that's
saying
a
this.
long.
Like
I'm
in
not.
Bangladesh.
I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not saying. See, the students are honest students. Most, I'm sure they are. But I'm saying that the trigger. This was happening for a few weeks. The trigger alone was okay. We've seen that it is coming
So
to
it
a
became
boiling point.
the immediate cause.
The immediate cause.
Cause.
But this is not, because I'm speaking to journalists and I've been speaking to them yesterday as well, and they said that, well, please do not call it a social media ban outreach. This is not that.
It's more
We've
than
been
just that,
trying
right.
to we've been trying to mobilize this protest for a while. I think the trigger just was the social media.
But if you see, the Dhaka template was also the same.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like the Chhatra Andolan,
Yes.
you know,
It
about the
always begins
university,
with the student
student,
protests, right.
university rights, and then it actually spilled over to the larger issue of, like, you know,
Regime
governance,
change.
regime change, and it ended
Right.
up to regime change. Yesterday also we were talking that, you know, this is not going to stop here, and after 20 deaths, that also remains a big question, that who ordered the firing on these protesting mob. Definitely, mob, protests are not our usual thing in any democracy for that matter. Such a large scale, nationwide protest, one thing, and firing at your own people. Definitely, it is a ready recipe of a disaster, of a catastrophe, and that happened. And the way KP Sharma Oli, either he misread the situation, someone misled him, or he was being too naive to gauge the situation. Because if you fire at your own people, and that too in a country like Nepal, like, you know, Nepalese are quite aware, they are very well connected, and they are not going to accept the fact that their army, their own armed forces have been asked to shoot at them, and they will go back home. So by yesterday evening, it was all clear that
Right.
KP Sharma Oli cannot sustain this. Now it is beyond social media. Social media could have been the immediate trigger point for
Yeah,
people to come
I
out,
agree.
but definitely that has already gone beyond that. But
I'll come to the entire region because
yes.
that's a very important aspect. If we are going to discuss this and we don't discuss how there has been revolution after revolution or
So-called
protests,
revolution.
so-called revolutions.
if you are calling it
after
The
revolution,
South Asia Spring.
The
Yeah.
South Asia Spring, as Sandeep put it when we were discussing it
but whose
earlier.
springboard is this?
Whose
Springboard.
springboard is
Yeah.
it? We'll
Yes.
discuss that, but we teased an individual before we started this conversation, and we're
Oh,
yet
yes.
to talk about him. Rabi Lamichhane,
Yes.
the individual who was put behind bars just after, during elections, immediately after.
Who served
He
as
held
Deputy
a-
Prime Minister of Nepal, who served as Home Minister of Nepal, who was accused and arrested for
Holding a-
murder charges.
No, and holding
And
an American passport.
American
right?
passport, which he said that he acquired
And he gave it up as well.
He gave it up the US citizenship. Between 2005, he moved to US, and then he acquired the US citizenship. And thereafter,
Right.
when he came back in 2017, he said that he has acquired the Nepalese
Right.
citizenship again.
Right.
And by virtue of that, like in Indian Constitution, similarly in Nepal as well, if you take any foreign citizenship,
You-
automatically your Indian citizenship cease to exist.
Yeah, you can't have
You have
double.
to-
you cannot have double
yeah,
citizenship.
Yeah, you cannot have
dual
double
citizenship.
citizenship, and you have to, even if you want to come back.
So
you have
what's
to
with the
acquire-
guy? Because he's now been released.
Yes, because the
He
Nahua-
was one of the
Nah-
faces of students
the jail he was
and
he was
change
lodged.
and a fresh start for Nepal. All of that and more. So what really happened here?
I think there are certain factors, like, you know, as we discussed about the Balin Shah, the mayor of the rapper engineer, mayor of Nepal, and this guy Rabi Lamichhane. Rabi Lamichhane's US passport became an issue. Then he was put behind bar. There was ban on him. There was Supreme Court case against him. And he was the first one to support and issue a statement. He is the leader of Rashtriya Swatantrata Party. That party still has member of parliament in Nepalese parliament. And he was the first one to support the social media, the protest against the social media ban. And I think these were the telltale signs people are trying to read, that, you know, why these individuals are active. If you see, right from today morning, if you see this, social media post made by Balin, It went viral.
Yes.
So why these individuals? Why there has been statement that people like Balen are acceptable? Someone like Balen, suddenly the Nakhwa jail was targeted where this guy was lodged, and so the authorities said that we do not want a situation like a complete jailbreak, so that the fugitives or the criminals go out, and that's why we have released Rabi Lamichhane. If you see the pattern in it, we do not know yet because the situation is in flux. Nepalese president has also, which has only has a ceremonial value.
Yeah, it's just
They're saying not
rubber
yet,
stamp.
not
Yeah.
yet. They're saying
Not,
not
no.
yet.
What?
The resignation.
Yeah, the resignation. Yeah. So
So
even
we'll
the
have to
reports
wait
are
and
there.
see.
But
Yeah,
it's
there are
very
reports.
interesting what you're
Yeah.
saying, because when the protests against Sheikh Hasina were brewing, when was it? 7th August when she
Yeah, 5th
fled-
of August.
5th of
Yeah,
August when
5th
she
of-
fled the
5th
country.
of- yeah,
fled the country.
I was,
Before that,
I was on
yeah.
a TV discussion
Yeah.
exactly like this one, and I was talking right then. I said, my first instinct was, I'm going to look at Mohammed Yunus very closely.
Yes.
Right? Because he has a kind of a pattern, like you indicated, the fact that he works with an NGO,
Yes.
he spent a long time in the United States,
Yes.
pro-democracy.
Yes.
So all
A lot of work
these-
for Clinton Foundation.
with the Clinton Foundation, of
Yes.
course, with the Democrats, and Mr. Lamchhane seems to tick many of those boxes.
Many of those boxes.
Many of those boxes.
Actually, we should
like
be
a
closely
a journalist
watching.
who you got experience in US,
Right.
who lived in United States.
Yeah.
Maybe if we are
Has been
trying to
demanding
allude
change,
it to,
reforms. He's been speaking about
but
reforms.
are we
in Nepal.
attributing it to United States? Are we? Like, I can't say with surety because these are all conjectures right now.
These are conjectures.
These
of
are
course. We're
conjectures.
just putting all
Absolutely.
these
These are,
facts
we are,
out
we're
there.
just throwing it out there for you guys to
And
decide
it is.
whether
we
it
don't know
is
what
there
the
is.
script
We do
is.
not know.
We don't know what the script is.
Exactly.
We're just giving you different acts and characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of them.
But definitely there is a pattern.
It rhymes.
Yeah.
It doesn't repeat. It
Yes.
rhymes.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
rhymes with a lot of other, so-called revolutions and mass protests and public protests.
Also,
which-
the difference over here again, there will be elections
But
that will be
if it
held
all-
in Bangladesh, and
there
there
will
is
be
an
elections in Nepal as well.
and no, and there is an opposition.
Yes.
In Nepal's case, the difference over here, Sandeep, is that all parties had to come together to form a coalition government.
That's
Yes.
right.
I mean, where is the opposition?
Right.
That's where the space comes to play. Now,
Right.
if there is an election,
Now you
they will
have
have to cobble up numbers. They'll have to see if there are winning candidates.
Yes.
So on
Given the
and so
current
forth.
mood and sentiment of Nepal, Geeta and Sandeep, they are talking about there is a mood which is anti-politician. They are targeting left, right, center, every political party. Like even the opposition leaders, they are being targeted. Their party officers
Because
are
there
being.
is no, they are all
So-
they all combined
How
to
many
they form
Nepal
one
Army,
government.
chiefs have done
Nepali
courses in the
Congress and
United
CP
States?
and UN.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this a stage being set for the military takeover? I mean, that's one possibility.
in
You
a-
have
in
to
a-
put it out
possible.
there.
This is a very interesting possibility, Sandeep. But since you know,
How much of influence does India has?
No, Nepalese
India have, sorry, on,
Nepalese army chief is a
Yes,
ceremonial.
traditionally, yeah.
Like traditionally, it has been like ceremonially.
Yeah.
The
I mean-
Indian army chief and Indian army chief is Nepalese. We
Yes.
work very closely. We
Honorary
have
chiefs,
huge.
actually.
Yeah, we are honorary chiefs of
Honorary
Of
chief.
Nepal, each other's army.
each
Yeah.
other's
Very
army.
close.
And we have huge, ex-Indian army soldiers there in Nepal.
Yes.
Like we have
From the
regiments
Gorkha
like
regiment.
Gorkha
Yes,
regiment.
yes.
So and we pay like the Indian exchequer pays their pensions and all. So we have very close relation with Nepal, the people of Nepal. So definitely we have our interest. But what strategic purpose, Sandeep, it serves? If someone want to have
exactly
this,
for India,
Yeah.
I don't see
No,
a
for India, no,
strategic
but
purpose
if
in an
anyone want to have a
unstable
regime
Nepal.
change at this juncture, at this point, what strategic purpose does it serve?
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think it was done that way. I think the
Like, who get
protests,
benefited out
Sandeep,
of
I
it?
think it was more organic. That students did not or were not happy with what was happening. You see, nobody
Corruption.
can just come up with this entire Nepo kid,
Yeah.
trending videos that came. I'm sure. I mean, he'll still say that that can also happen.
Scripted.
But I'm
Yeah.
saying, that there still is something that's organic. You cannot get so many people, mobilize so many people without there being real
Yeah,
angst
that's right.
and real call for
These are not
reform.
hired crowds. You're
They're
saying.
not,
like
not
for a politician's
no,
rally.
really
It's
not.
not like
I mean,
politics.
really not, right? But yes, I do see strategic interest, and we'll see them play out in some time from now.
But also-
Nepal is strategically very important as a state, as
So
a
wedge
country, as a
between
region.
India and
Yes, and
China.
China's, right?
Sandeep, here in terms of the democracy, regulating or kind of controlling the social media,
Yes.
democracies are increasingly under pressure globally, and they are finding it difficult. Social media companies, these tech giants, have become a new factor of the society.
They're a geopolitical force.
So, are we looking at a situation where algorithms, because this is a long-standing debate that whether they are publisher like us, we are publishers, we can be held accountable for the
Yes.
content we put out. But these tech giants and these platforms, they take advantage of or they take the plea that they are the platforms, they are not publishers.
Ambiguity, yes.
But on the other side, we see all the patterns, all the signs of them behaving like a publisher, where
Right.
the content is being regulated,
Yes.
the content is being edited, the content is algorithms. So if are we living in a situation where algorithms will be controlling the society and the way they behave, the way they react, and where they
Absolutely.
accept or where they reject?
Can you imagine when AI kind of takes over, when you have
God forbid.
a couple of decades from now, where we'll be looking at
Siri is still listening.
Yes, and the machines are going to take over
Yeah.
of it. But that is a couple of decades away. But like you mentioned, that there seems to be an element of human agency behind all of this, and that's why we are debating this.
So it's amalgamation
Okay,
of human.
we'll ask
Yes.
our producers
Yeah.
and Scar to pull out that map so that the two of you can break it down for us. We are seeing Nepal today. We saw Bangladesh yesterday. Sri Lanka the day before yesterday. Afghanistan the day before yesterday. So it's been a real unraveling of countries in the Indian subcontinent and the region.
Sandeep, if
Right.
you see this map, this project is like post 2020, post COVID.
Post-COVID.
Post-COVID, if you see the regime change or the government change,
Right.
the kind of turbulence we are witnessing in South Asia.
Right.
So, like in February 2020, we had Myanmar. In August 2021, there was government change or some kind of change in Afghanistan.
In Afghanistan.
The US troops
the
withdrew.
US withdrew, and
US withdrawal,
the
and this-
Taliban stepped into the vacuum.
Taliban stepped into to the power, and that has its own impact.
Yes.
We are still trying to grapple whether to accept or whether to not to accept. That thing is still there in South Asia. Then in 2022 you had Pakistan.
Right.
Then in 2023. I think 2023 it was Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
2024 you
Of course.
And
And Maldives as
Maldives,
well. The
Maldives as well.
And Maldives.
Maldives as well.
2022 was Sri Lanka, 23 was Maldives.
Maldives, yeah.
Then we had 2024 Pakistan, where Imran Khan, right? That was 2023.
No, that was
2023.
9 May.
That was
like,
tw- yeah,
yeah,
so-
that was
2023.
That was 23,
August 2022. August, July,
and
August
2022 was Afghanistan.
Yes.
So we have
So
we
April
have an
2022
entire,
was,
and if you look at the region today, you're seeing massive effort to ensure that China's influence in the region
Yes.
is reduced.
Contained.
The
or
string of
contained.
pearls is kind of
Is contained.
contained.
Helps
neutralized.
India. I'm not
So someone
complaining.
stole the pearls and wanted to have his own.
Except for the Maldives.
Yeah.
Except
The
for the
Maldives,
Maldives.
Yes, Maldives it seems to be back in the
So is Sri Lanka. If you see,
Sri Lanka
there is
because
largely
of the
stability.
financial
Yeah.
crisis.
Financial crisis.
Again, that was,
India
I think,
stepped in,
organic, not-
and India stepped in very constructively. If you see India's role there, and Anurag Desai, who was
Yeah.
considered as a left leader, people had many apprehensions. But if you see, he paid first visit to India, and largely we have like good friendly
we've
relations.
stabilized
the
situation.
relationship.
But this point
Yeah.
that you made, Pranay, about all of this happening post-COVID, and this is something that's bothered me in the last couple of months as well. I was just looking at every single geopolitical event that's taken place since COVID in the last 5 years. Look at it. The tectonic shifts in
Yes.
the world have all happened after COVID. Whether it's the Russia-Ukraine war, you're wondering why did Putin invade Ukraine? Why did Yahya Sinwar do that
Yes.
absolutely stupid thing to
Yes.
massacre Israeli civilians? How did he think he was going to get away with that? All of these things seem to have happened after COVID. This is not a conspiracy theory. I'm just laying the facts
Yes.
out to understand whether COVID actually rewired human consciousness.
No, what
while
it's-
we were in
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
While we were in isolation, did it fuel our anxieties? Did it make us more?
I think Sinwar was
anxious?
isolated enough.
Yeah. And,
Whether
and
virus did or not, Sandeep, we
whether
can't say
the
for
virus,
sure.
whether it was this
But
collective
certainly
paranoia.
No, certainly the
Or whether
the
if
economic
everything came together at that point in time,
No, but
where,
Geeta, certainly
where
the-
things change geopolitically
Yeah.
for the world. Can't discount the Trump factor now, but
Yes.
even before that, even during Biden administration, a lot of things were changing. And don't forget, Xi Jinping is not the Xi Jinping of the past. Not even not the past leadership of China, but certainly
Right.
not Xi Jinping of the past.
Right.
He has changed drastically post-COVID. There has been a drastic change in how China looks at itself vis-a-vis the world, because they know that should there be a pandemic, they can so easily be tried not to be just contained, but to be
Yes.
isolated. So the aggressiveness with which they've handled the entire region, their neighborhood, is very different from the past. This whole zero tolerance towards Taiwan, there was a bit of tolerance, absolute zero tolerance, telling them that you are going to be part of mainstream China, right? Then not just zero tolerance towards Hong Kong, taking Hong Kong way before 2047 when they legally have the right to
No,
own
on one
Hong
side
Kong.
we have the belligerent behavior
I
of
think
certain
there
big
is-
powers.
there is this-
And on the other side, Geeta, we also have to factor in, as you mentioned about COVID, that post-COVID, the economic pressure on especially the
Yes.
developing economies and the fragile democracies.
Right.
If you see all these democracies around us, be it Myanmar, be it Sri Lanka, be it Nepal, be it Pakistan, all these have been fragile democracies.
Absolutely.
If you see the history
And economies.
and economies.
And economies.
Exactly.
Very
And so
fragile.
depending
COVID
on
added-
and I
global supply
think
chains
that
and
was
their
what they
global
took
economies.
advantage of,
Right.
because they saw, because at least China, I think they thought that this is now or never for them. They need to be in the game to beat the containment policy of America. And I'm not saying the West, because it's not more so the West, it's more so America.
It's more a US.
Yeah, it's a
thing.
US China thing. It's not Europe,
Yeah.
because Europe was engaging China, and even
US is
post
so deeply
even
indebted.
post COVID,
Yeah, all of
Europe.
the European countries,
European
all
countries.
of Europe,
Germany, Spain,
quietly they would say, okay, we're not
Post-Greek
doing it.
economic crisis.
yeah, all
Yeah,
of them.
Yeah.
everybody.
Post-Greek
So
economic
I
crisis.
think I wouldn't say it was realization from all countries and all quarters only, but I do agree that post-COVID something drastically changed in Beijing
Right.
more than anywhere else in the world, because
It-
we were
it did
getting
change in
by.
US
We
as
were
well.
still, and US
In
and
US as well.
Right.
This whole war between China and US became more prominent, more in
More
your
pronounced,
face,
yeah.
more pronounced and more in your face, even to us, even to countries that are engaging China and America. It was in your face that you choose them or us. Oh, who are you going to deal with? Oh, are you doing this with them? So what are you doing with us? Everything had become so transactional.
Because if you see the genesis of Sri Lanka economic crisis, their decision to buy that biofertilizer from China,
Yes.
which led to that agrarian crisis, and agrarian crisis led to the price rise, and that price rise led to the the people's
Yeah.
protests.
So the domino
and
effect
so domino
of-
effect
yeah,
of that.
of economic
Similarly,
crisis.
I
in
think
Maldives
you're
also,
quite right.
like when India stepped in, helped the government there, we ensured that tourist footfall remains there in
Right.
a fragile economy of Maldives, which actually led to the the counter forces have India out campaign
Yeah.
there, and there is a pattern to it.
I love it.
So,
Every time you have an India out,
Yeah.
every time Prime Minister Modi and President Muizu are meeting, you have
Yeah.
the entire chain of people who are in the opposition in the Maldives
Huh.
with Muizu and their India out red
Yes,
t-shirt.
red t-shirt.
The memes go out and they're like, okay, this is the man Modi's meeting. This is the man he's meeting. He is the
Yes.
India out face. He's the India out face. So it's hilarious.
But Geeta, coming back to this point,
coming
that
back to
this point that we are surrounded by these small, fragile nations. This
Fragile democracy.
fragile democracies,
Yes.
does it leave us more worried in terms of our progress, because we are surrounded by these states, and we have long historical civilizational linkage with all these. This is South Asia per se. It's an Indian subcontinent, as you
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Pranay, I mean, any act of instability within any of these fragile democracies is going to have a blowback on India. And let's not forget, 1971 was Pakistan, then East Pakistan, later Bangladesh. You had 7 million refugees pouring into India, and the effects of that are being felt half a century later in India's northeast, right? A similar thing could happen in Nepal if this anarchy continues. If the military doesn't step in, somebody doesn't restore law and order, there's calls for India to intervene. And I think we've done the right thing by staying out of this. Because
Yes.
you don't want to give the protesters another target to attack, which
That's
is India, right? The big brother in the neighborhood has entered.
And we should not look like
No,
we're
we
involved.
should
And we
at
often
all.
get become easy target of that, because
why
it's
give
easy
them
to
another target? But
No,
you know, the
definitely
thing is
we
that
want
if
stability in Nepal.
in
We
our-
definitely want, and even as a journalist and as a people of
Yes.
India, we also want stability in Nepal,
so
and
the
let
thing is that
Nepalese do
if the
and
anarchy
manage their own
continues
country.
in Nepal, Pranay Gita, the fact is that there could be blowback on India, like you mentioned. There are porous borders there. If Nepalese start pouring into India, into Uttar Pradesh, for instance, or Bihar, or other states, that would create problems for us.
Yes,
We can't
yes.
absorb these large masses of people, right?
You know,
And
we were
that too,
having this
this-
edit meeting, and
yeah.
I'll just, this is just, adding some lighter conversation to this very serious conversation that the two of you are having. So, the edit meeting, they were saying that, so again, the troubled neighborhood and all these countries, and one of the editors said, I'm not going to name, but one of the editors said, why does India always have to be the big good friend, and why can't we have at least someone in our neighborhood which is strong, and we have a good friend in that neighborhood? We are the ones always going to rescue and being there for them, because every time they hit a very bad road,
Right.
it's not China, it's not America, it is India that comes to their rescue.
Yeah,
Let's not make no mistake about that. And whether if there are interests involved or not, of course there are interests involved.
Right.
But it's beyond that. It's
Right.
beyond that. India thinks of the neighborhood beyond just immediate interest and being transactional.
Yes. So Geeta, I mean, I was earlier today. I was at a seminar, a very well attended seminar with a lot of good thinkers, strategists, foreign policy officials, military men, and they were all talking about 1965, the 60th anniversary of the 1965 war, of course. And the point everyone kept making was, oh, is India alone today in 2025? Right? But the fact is that India has always been alone, right? We've always charted an independent course. And we've known that from the 60s at least, right? We briefly had the Soviet Union with us for about two and a half decades, but ever since we've been on our own, and I think we are very capable of handling our own security, and of course providing help to our neighbors. Whenever they are in distress, like you mentioned, that India is the first country to reach any country in the neighborhood, in its backyard. Whether there's an earthquake, there's a crisis, there's an upheaval, there's famine, there's drought, whatever it is, India is the first responder in the region.
That's true.
And that is something that we do. It comes to us naturally. There's the aid that India gives is not out of any ulterior motive that we are going to give them aid because we're going to.
There is no quid pro quo.
Yeah, there's no quid pro quo. Exactly. We do it out of the goodness of our hearts, and if you look at it, that's our default setting. And even if you've seen the way we've handled this entire trade war with Trump, right? I think a lot of praise
Great
must be
maturity.
given. Very mature
Great
MEA.
maturity.
If you see the kind of statements
And
that
if
have
you
been coming out.
see here, the aid is not in terms of the Western idea of aid. Here, when we give aid, this is like this has been a one large region where we have civilizational linkages, where we have like with Nepal, you would call it a roti beti ka rishta.
Yeah.
So like many families have families are on the either side of the border here,
Right.
especially the Tarai region. If you see, many
Yeah.
girls are married. Nepalese girls are married in Bihar, and many Bihari.
I mean, we've gone
it's
to school with
Bihar,
Nepalese
UP,
classmates.
exactly,
Yes,
and
exactly.
We still have
it's
so many
porous.
people are there.
It's like
So-
you
exactly.
don't need a passport to
Exactly.
travel to
So
Nepal.
we
likewise.
we treat them as an extended family.
Yes.
So when an
Yes.
extended family is in crisis,
Yes.
and even if you see, despite with all chilly relation with Pakistan,
Yes.
you're on the humanitarian basis. The Indian High Commission in Islamabad did inform the Pakistani authorities that
About
we
the
have
flood waters.
about the flood
About
waters.
flood waters.
Yeah.
Okay, coming back to Nepal then, Pranay, Sandeep, we're looking at a very, very difficult time over here with a massive vacuum that you'll be seeing for some time. And I say that is because unlike other countries, and I was telling Sandy this, that unlike other countries where there is an opposition and there's a party in power and there are protests and people looking at or looking to that party
An
to take
alternative,
over,
yeah.
there is no alternative here in Nepal. Nepali Congress, CPN UML formed a coalition government. The others are very, very very small splinter groups that we're looking at. So what is the solution over here? This is a people's movement, but it has gone beyond just being a movement. It has become violent. So there has to be, if they seek accountability, if they today seek accountability from government, they should also be held accountable for the lives lost. The government should be held responsible for the lives lost during because they opened fire.
Yes.
But they should be held responsible for the lives lost, the destruction of property, and should this be allowed, or should they really be doing this? Having said that, there's a vacuum. How do you see, what's the road ahead, Pranay? And then I'll come to you, Sandeep.
I think Nepalese army has large and a very significant role to play here because they are the institution.
Yeah.
They have the main means.
The only institution it seems
institution.
that's left.
Right.
And they are the institution with power. They can contain the situation. So largely it depends on what role a Nepalese army would do. If at all the Bangladesh template or the Dhaka template is being followed here, then you might see army will control and contain the situation and take a backseat. They'll go back to barracks and they let a interim government, if the students or these protesters will accept that, there will be an interim arrangement, and with an assurance that there will be a new government. Because the demands, if you see, put out by so-called Gen Z protester, is that they want mass resignation of the entire parliament. They want fresh election. They want acceptable face and one face as the leader of this interim arrangement. If these were the demands, we do not know for the sure, because right now we do not know who's the face of this protest.
I'll tell you, there are two names for now that are doing the rounds. One is, of course, Rabi Lamichhane. The other, I'm being told, is Kulman Ghising. He was with the Electricity Board, Managing Director of Nepal Electricity Authority.
Familiar with power.
No, because
I'm telling you, these are the two names we'll be watching.
Yes.
You guys should be watching.
there's another name,
Yes.
Sushila Karki. Sushila Karki was the Supreme Court Chief Justice, and she was the one who overruled KP
Okay,
Sharma.
Sushila Karki. We
Karki
have
is also
three
another
people.
name.
We have
Right.
nice. It's
And
it's
also-
not a manel. It's a
And
panel.
Balin Shah.
It's-
Balin Shah is also another
Balin
name.
Shah.
Balin Shah
Shah
will be. It's a Rabi
Some-
Lamichhane Balin Shah.
So could be.
So that
could
is
be combo.
together.
Combo.
But we have
And
Kulman Ghising,
Kulman Ghising.
Rabi Lamichhane,
Kulman Ghising was the
Balin
guy
Shah, and Karki.
whose removal actually sparked
Four names.
large protest in February.
Right.
Yes.
So when there was pro-monarchy protest, there were also protests for his removal as the Nepal Electricity Commission chief.
Right.
So there is a series of protests. Something was in building, but you have to see that what role do they play. India definitely remain concerned and cautious about the situation, because whatever is happening, it's internal affair of Nepal. Let the Nepalese people decide how they want their country to be governed.
How do you think the
But-
Nepalese people are going to decide, Sandy?
It's going to be the Bangladesh template.
Yeah.
It's very clear. What you just told me right now, Geeta, is you're going to have an interim government overseen by a senior advisor like Mohammad Yunus. And that senior advisor is going to decide when the elections are going to be held, which is going to be a year, 2 years.
Could be, might take
even
time,
longer.
for the long range reforms.
Yes.
See,
for the
here
reforms
Yunus
to be-
wants
Yeah.
to stay in power. I think these guys will ensure that they're elected to power.
Once in coming to power, who want
That's
to
also
relinquish?
true. That's
Yes.
also true. Okay.
So-
4 names for now. We'll do a separate one on who these 4 people are and profile them for our viewers, so
Or
they
there could be another
understand.
name. We do not know.
Oh, yeah, but
We do not know.
we'll still
Yeah.
put out the names that
Yes.
we
Or
think.
the army could take over. Who knows?
Exactly.
Thank you
Army.
so much,
It's such
guys.
a
We can
flex.
keep going
Yeah.
on and on. Let me
means-
close
yeah.
this show by saying that there are a few names. We'll put out those names separately
And
in a
before you
video.
close, Geeta,
Okay.
I would want to borrow one sentence or one phrase made by Sandeep yesterday.
With
It's a
them it
T20
never stops.
It's a T20 of geopolitics.
Oh
It's
yeah,
a
absolutely. Where's the
T20.
doubt? We
Wow.
were playing a
Okay,
test.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Before COVID, it was a test match, right? And after COVID, it's T20. And
So even helicopter shots are allowed.
Yeah, yeah.
Any kind of shot is
Yeah,
allowed
yeah.
Right.
till the time it is making your scoreboard
changes
ticking.
every single day.
Format
Yeah.
has changed. Revolution stays. whether it's one that will continue being violent, or will we see some semblance of normalcy, at least peace in Nepal before things before they decide on where they want to go, how they're headed, and will there be a government? We'll again, finally say it again, we'll put out a separate video on names that we just spelt out, profiling them so you understand where do they stand and what was their role in this entire agitation, if there was one. Thank you so much for joining us here. That's Pranay Upadhyay, Sandeep Unathan, Geeta Mohan saying goodbye to you.